My name is Bob Whipple, and I'm also called the Trust Ambassador. In this short video, I want to discuss a skill that you already have, but you may not be using it to its full capacity, and that may be hurting you in your relationships with other people. The skill is making a great first impression when meeting someone for the first time. The relationship will actually progress at different rates based on what happens. Actually, what happens in the first few seconds matters the most of all. Malcolm Gladwell wrote a book entitled Blink. He pointed out that humans have an amazing skill to size one another up in a heartbeat. Malcolm talks about doing it in the first 3 seconds. I stretch it all the way out to 10 seconds. But it really doesn't matter if it's 3 seconds or 10 seconds. The point is that in a very short period of time, we create a relationship with another person. And that initial feeling has everything to do with how the relationship progresses. Recently, I attended a speed networking event at the Rochester Business Alliance. It was one of those affairs where you meet a number of new people, but only for about 3 minutes each time. It's sort of like speed dating, only with business people. That morning I met 22 out of the 40 people that were in the room. And I paid attention to the kind of feeling that I had as I met each person. Of course, we were all on our best behavior in order to impress the others. Most people, although, were not so memorable. In fact, a few of them I thought were quite forgettable. But there was one young lady who was actually terrific. She had great body language throughout. And there was one man, he was in his 20s. He really blew me away. Obviously, I'd never met him before. Before we even shook hands, he struck me as someone who was completely different from the other 20 people that I had met in a positive way. It was so powerful that the very first thing I said to him was, "Congratulations, you're going to be a very wealthy man." He was taken aback. He couldn't figure out what I was talking about until I explained that it's all about the body language. So for most of us, body language is something that happens involuntarily. But if we could make it more intentional, we could actually change everything. This is a skill you can learn, just like my new friend did, and it can change your life. After you know the secret, your relationships will proceed at about 10 times the rate, and that's an amazing advantage. The analogy I like to use is planting a seed of trust in the first 10 seconds. We have the opportunity, if we use it, to plant a seed that will grow quickly into high trust with the other individual. Not being able to plant a seed of trust in the first 10 seconds doesn't doom a relationship at all. Clearly, we can build trust over time, but it's a lot tougher and it takes a lot more energy and time to do it. If we plant that seed of trust at the start, then the relationship takes off. Like that young man, one individual blew out 22 people. He didn't even know he was doing anything different. So what are some of the techniques? The first idea is to watch your attitude. Believe it or not, people have the ability to read what's going on in your mind very accurately by the way your body is configured. It's what you're thinking in the back of your mind that makes the difference. Your eagerness to meet the other person is what comes through on the inaudible channel. If you're truly excited about the opportunity to meet, it will show all over your body. It's like it's screaming out to the other person who's going to pick it up instantly. On the other side, if you're down or distracted or have some other negative feelings, that's going to show as well, and it will hamper the start of the relationship. The second thing that we want to do is be aware of how we stand. Bill Atchison is a famous body language expert from University of Pittsburgh. He says that men like to work at angles, as shown in this picture. After the initial handshake, that's usually square shoulder, Men naturally configure themselves at an angle. It's just what we do. Women prefer to meet someone square shoulder, as shown in this picture. It has to do with a biological difference that most people are not aware of. Men have a very narrow peripheral vision. It's just the way we're built, on average. We're like moles. We can see the tunnel and catch the end of the tunnel, but we really don't see all of the detail out here. So when men meet each other, they usually stand square-shouldered for the handshake, and then they immediately position themselves at an angle to bring in the most information they can through their ears. Women have a much wider peripheral vision on average, so they like to take in everything at once. Men tend to listen with their ears, but women actually listen more with their eyes, believe it or not. When meeting a woman, try to stay square-shouldered to the woman, whether you're a male or a female. And don't step to the side, because if you do, you're starting to invade her privacy and it's going to make her nervous. A third issue is eye contact. It's all about how much and for how long. I'm sure we've all met someone with too much eye contact staring at us. Makes us nervous. We've also met people who, while we're shaking hands, are looking around the room to see who else is there. That's not enough eye contact. The most important eye contact is actually before the handshake and just at the start of the handshake. That was how that young man blew me away. He made great eye contact as he approached and then as we started the handshake. Now, it's a good idea to look elsewhere on the face after the handshake starts. But try to keep it to the face. Try not to scan down the whole body, because that really is a turnoff for most people. Then it's a good idea to return eye contact at the end of the handshake, because that's when the deal is really sealed. The fourth issue is the handshake itself. Extend one hand only. Don't go for a two-handed handshake when first meeting someone. Some people like to use two hands as a sign of friendship, and it's not good. In reality, it can be a threatening gesture, and it certainly can send the wrong signals to someone you're just meeting. Extend your hand in a vertical position. The idea is to meet the other person on an equal basis. If you would approach a person to shake hands and your palm is down, that forces the other person to have a palm up, and you end up in a dominant position, which is not a good equal relationship. Make sure there's good contact before you close your hand. I know we've all experienced a situation where there's a partial grip when we close our hands, and it's very uncomfortable for both people. Unfortunately, once a handshake starts, you can't really disengage and start over and say, well, let's do it all over again. You can't do that. So you've got to get it right the first time. Here's the trick. Make sure when you approach someone, there's good web-to-web contact between the two of you before you close your hand. And that will guarantee a good, solid handshake. Using moderate pressure is a good idea. You don't need to make the handshake painful for other people in order for them to be impressed. That's some folklore that really isn't true at all. Try to avoid an overly firm or a completely limp kind of handshake. Use a moderate pressure and you'll do just fine. These are just a few of the tips that I have in my program on establishing a seed of trust in the first 10 seconds. Here is a picture of a laminated card I hand out at all my events. It has 12 tips for the first 10 seconds on one side and 10 handshake tips on the other side. I'll be happy to send you a free copy of this card if you send me a note via my contact information, which is in the credits at the end of this video. These ideas can change your life because they provide the ability to start each relationship on a better footing. Your relationships will progress toward trust at 10 times the rate if you follow these tips. And that's a life skill worth doing well. Thank you.